Why have you become so notorious? Because I look at it as, I've actually watched a lot of your lectures. I've listened to hours of you and Joe Rogan talking about stuff.
Okay.
I don't see the devil that some people try and portray you as, at all. And it seems to me the one thing we may share in common is certainly not intellectual prowess, where unfortunately I'm many yards behind you. But what we do share, I think, is that a lot of people seem to have drawn an opinion about us based on either what they've seen in a tiny clip, taken out of context a lot of the time, or...
What an incredibly biased, I mean, he's not even done with the question. What an incredibly biased question. So like, I'm a good guy and you're a good guy, but people don't like us because they're cringe. What do you think about that? Okay. All right. Well, you know, I think, all right. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jordan Peterson's going to give like a really detailed answer about why it's okay to dislike him, or if there's really valid reasons to dislike him. But I don't know. We'll see.
What they've been told to think about you by other people.
Yeah, well, that's some of it. I mean, I got tangled up in a political controversy in Canada. I mean, tangled up. I put my foot in it to some degree because I wasn't very happy with what I regarded as government overreach in relationship to who is in possession of my tongue. And I decided a long time ago, and really a long time ago, that I was going to say what I thought, and sort of independent of the outcome. You know, often people craft their speech. You know, I could have come here on your show, for example. I spent half an hour thinking, well, what do I want out of this show? But I don't think like that. I wanted to come here and have a conversation with you.
You don't actually make notes, I'm told, before your big
I make
lectures and
notes,
speeches.
but I generally don't use them. So I have to prepare, you know.
And are they different when you go on tour?
What the hell does this mean? So just so you know, if you forget like Jordan Peterson's come up, this all kicked off about him like lying about Bill C-16, and Bill C-16 was simply a bill that added like things like misgendering and slurs to the list of things that can be considered harassment in the workplace that you can sue for, which seems perfectly fine, right? But he got mad about it. He said that he lied and said that Bill C-16 would make it illegal for you to accidentally misgender somebody, and then the federal Canadian police would take you away and throw you in Canadian Guantanamo Bay, where you will spend the rest of your life and you will be killed. Exaggerating a little bit, but he thought that it was going to be like illegal then. And then to say that he injected himself into the issue, he testified in front of the Canadian Parliament to lie even more about Bill C-16, and then he left America. Sorry, and then he left Canada for America because of it. It's just, I don't know, it's just incredibly strange. It's just incredibly weird. And still to this very day, as far as I remember, nobody's been arrested for Bill C-16 because it's mostly that's not what the bill is for. It's just like you can't misgender people frequently to the point where it can be classified as harassment. Because like workplace harassment and like school place harassment should not be accepted because it's a learning environment and not an environment for you to be able to harass people into leaving.
Or is every night different?
Yes. I never do the same.
How do you decide what to talk about?
Well, at the moment, sometimes I'm taking questions from the audience, and so I just do a Q&A, but I don't look at the questions before I go on stage. And I ask...
Oh, also, I'm sorry. And then he said, like earlier, he was like...
The purpose of your life is not going to be happiness. Sometimes it is. Sometimes that will come. But there will be difficult periods in your life, and happiness won't suffice then. But what you can have in your life is an adventure. You can have an adventure. And the truth is the best adventure. There's no doubt about that. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, you don't know what's going to happen if you say what you think. Now, I don't mean incautiously, and I don't mean provocatively or any more than necessary. You don't know what's going to happen. So that's very adventurous. But also, if it's you and your voice, then it's your adventure. And if it isn't, like if you're crafting your speech or manipulating in any way, or parroting or abiding by the dictates of the crowd, then I don't know whose adventure you're having, but it's not yours.
On free speech.
What was bro even talking about? It's just I don't know. I feel like a lot of conservatives, like they'll like resonate with this, but like the thing is, then they hate like the consequences of following this, right? Because your actions have consequences and actions have reactions. So a lot of them will be like, I'm just saying what I feel. I'm just saying what I think. And then people are like, yo, fuck you. And then they're like, I can't believe you're coming at me for saying what I believe. Like, I don't like you. You say I'm glad that you said what you believe, because now I know that you're not, because now I know that you're a bad person. I don't have to infer it. But you know, if somebody is always saying what they believe, I don't know. It's like, as a clinical psychologist, I thought it would be a little well known that people not like bend the truth and lie, but people like leave things out for like the benefit of like the conversation, or being able to like just speak to somebody. Generally, we do this a lot. Like, if somebody's like, yo, if your wife is like, does this dress make me look fat? And then you're like, you look like a pig, you fat bitch. You know, she probably, you know, that's probably, your wife will probably not like that, you know? You may like sugarcoat what you're going to say a little bit to not like cause more issues than it's worth. It seems cool to say this, but when it comes down to like actually being a human being and participating in society, it's not as cool as you may think. And a lot of the times it can be like a showing of social ineptitude more than anything else.
It seems to me, in my 57 years of being on this planet, that free speech has never been under more ferocious attack, not in places you would expect, like authoritarian regimes, but actually in democracies. I never thought I'd come to a day in my lifetime where people were literally being fired or in some cases imprisoned for expressing honestly held opinions, even if I find those opinions grotesquely wrong or offensive.
What are those opinions?
People underestimate the significance of this, because it isn't, we're not having a fight about who has the right to speak freely. That's nothing. That's a peripheral problem, even though that can be serious in it.
He's British though. True, British public is wrong about nearly everything. This is a factual statement. This is well researched. The British public is wrong about nearly everything. So when a British guy is like, I can't believe this is real, I'm like, I can't believe you made it this far in life, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. You get thrown in jail for considering saying that you're English. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of like conservatives and a lot of like free speech weirdos. And I say that not in the sense of like, oh, you're a weirdo for believing in free speech. In the way in which like you go about it and what you think free speech means. Yeah, you could be like a real weirdo for that. But my thing is like, I just like people being fired for saying things that they believe. Sure, you've always been able to be fired for saying things that you believe. Like your boss can fire you for like nearly everything besides like immutable characteristics. And so that means like you can be fired for things that you believe. And this has been happening for a while. I mean, before like a lot of other laws came about, you used to be fired for saying like, hey, I think we should join a union. And you're still able to be fired for saying that you want to join a union. So I don't know. When was this mystical, magical time in which like you could never be fired for saying things that you honestly believe? Could you only be fired for saying lies before? I don't know, it's weird.
In and of itself. We're having a fight about whether or not...
That's true. People get fired in England for saying things that they honestly believe. Like, hello, I am Muslim.
Your claim that free speech exists is nothing but a masquerade for your willingness to dominate and use power. And so if I was taking that tack, I'd say, it's all well and good for you to speak about free speech, but look, you're white and you're middle class and you're British and you're privileged. And you have this theory about free speech that your ancestors derived, but the only reason they ever derived that to begin with is so they could exercise their power. There's no such thing as free speech. That's just a lie to mask a power claim. And that's a way worse cynical criticism of the notion of free speech than you can't speak because I don't agree with
I mean, it's a form of fascism, isn't it? I mean, these people...
What the fuck is he saying?
The ultra woke brigade out there, they categorize themselves...
What is fascism?
But there's nothing liberal about that mentality. When you have a cancel culture, which is driven by, if you don't agree with what I say, you're going to get shamed, vilified, cancelled, fired, maybe even imprisoned. That is actually...
Pause. Everything. What is it? What is happening? What is this like? What is this liberal brain rot? What is this like? Liberal defines liberal, like says what liberalism is, then gets mad about it. What the fuck? What is it? And then calls it liberal. This happens a lot with people who are like capitalists a lot. Like they'll be like, capitalists will see a country that's like giga capitalist and then call it socialist. Like, it's super weird. I don't know how they do this. Like, whatever happened to other people's free speech to say that you're cringe? If you're so free speech absolutist, where's my legal ability to say that I hate you, I think you're ugly, I'm gonna kill you? You know, why can't I say that? But then they'll get like really mad once you like criticize them. They'll love free speech all the way up until you criticize them or say something that they don't like. It's super weird. I actually don't understand it. I really don't. There's no reason for why like you would put canceled, made fun of, demeaned. All of this is free speech. I cannot interact with you. Whatever happened to, now I need to interact with you because you want me to? Isn't this fascism now? Like, you're forcing me to do something that I don't want to do simply to make yourself feel better? Because you don't want to like get out of my friend group or something? Or now you want to stay on my payroll? Now, you know what? This is fascist. Now this is fascism where, you want me to keep paying you even though I don't want to. Oh my gosh, now you're owed my money? Fascism? Like, this is low IQ. Stop.
Actually, what fascist regimes do to people, to their populace.
Yeah, but the fascists are more straightforward about it because they basically come out and say something like, shut up or we'll beat you.
Right.
Whereas the compassionate types who are narcissistic compassionate types, they come out and say, well, we're really trying to save the world, you know, and we're acting in everyone's best interest, and we think it would be better if you should just, you know, regulate what you say. Because if you don't, you're not a good person. And so it's much more, I'd take the fascist bully over the compassionate narcissist anytime. They're way more straightforward.
I mean,
What the fuck? All right. I'd rather my country be fascist because queer people are mean to me and they want to save the world too much. What the fuck is this?
I couldn't really get my head around why so many young people feel so anxious all the time, compared to when I was young, when that wasn't really a
he is a geezer
amongst my friendship group, certainly. But I reckon it's two things. One, social media, the constant bombardment of other people.
Father, how do I
having a
click
great
book?
time,
Social
looking
media
great,
bad.
to the false imagery and that having to
Father,
live
how
up
do
to
I click
false
book?
ideals. But also a conversation I had with Dr. Phil in America, where his explanation for it was that he said, you've got to understand that social media means that young people now are being bombarded all day long and all night long with quite shocking imagery. And he gave an example. He said, when I was young, he said, if a crocodile ate somebody on a golf course in Florida, the chances are I would never have heard about it. It probably wouldn't have made the national news, probably wouldn't have even made the state news, and I wouldn't have heard about this incident. Now, it's quite likely that a video of the crocodile eating this person would be whipping its way around social media within half an hour. And young kids would be sharing it, disseminating it, and being exposed to this constant imagery all the time of quite unsettling and shocking imagery. What do you think of that theory? And
I think
that in itself was adding to a sense of everything's terrible.
Well, I think it's a corollary of an information overload theory, right? I mean, one of the advantages to having the computational power we have is that everything is at your fingertips. And the disadvantage is that everything's in your face.
So the real reason why people are anxious these days is because things are just kind of worse, right? Things are just worse. Like it's easier for like these two multimillionaires to sit down and theorize why like middle class normal people's children are experiencing issues, when I know here in the States that like millennials are worse off than their parents, and I'm pretty sure Gen Z on average is worse off than millennials, and then Gen Alpha may be worse off than like Gen Z were. So like a lot of anxiety may be happening right now, probably for a big reason is because like things are just worse. I'm sorry, you can't work at Taco Bell and then provide for a family of 6 these days. You can't do it, all right, without any college experience or anything. And college has increased by 100 times, and people are in debt for the rest of their lives. Like, I don't know what to tell you, partner. Like a lot, and like we haven't even gotten onto the idea of climate change yet. I'm not sure if these people even believe in it. which means that they're a big part of why it's still a problem and that we have to deal with it. These fucking old ass geezers are probably going to be dead by the time that it gets like really, really bad. So they can sit on their thrones and in their mansions, having the time of their lives while we're struggling to get ours even started. Yeah, that's a big reason. Sure, I would imagine being able to see bad things is bad for you. But at the same time, we have unprecedented levels of like parental controls in which parents can enact to help keep their children safe. Like before, like you weren't able to do any of that type of stuff. And like death and like all of these things were way closer to younger people's faces than there ever were. I'm sorry. Like back in the day when child mortality was way higher, like your family members would just fucking die all the time. And there's honestly like not much that you could have done that you could do about it. These days, child mortality is at an all-time low, at least like around the world. It's not like the best here. It's just kind of ridiculous. I don't know. I know it's like the big boomer answer to always blame like social media for all of your problems, but I gotta tell you, it really isn't all that. Really isn't all like that.
And by everything, it might be 40 million pornographic images. Like that's a lot. Or an endless array of
who up watching 40
scenarios.
million pornographic
Really
images?
And so that's a problem. And the fundamental problem is how do you handle the fire hose of information? And no one really knows the answer to that. But we should also point out that it's no wonder that young people are demoralized and anxious because we're doing everything we can to demoralize them and make them anxious. So on the masculine front, we tell young boys that, well, the world's a terrible patriarchal tyranny, and all of that patriarchal tyranny, which is the whole explanation for history, has done nothing but oppress and exploit people and destroy the planet. And so that any manifestation of that masculine impulse on your part is equivalent to the world-destroying force.
Well, all masculinity
what the
now
fuck is happening?
toxic.
Yeah.
Who said this?
The key moment for me came when Gillette, who'd always had these.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe Gillette told men not to rape people. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world where Gillette tells boys that raping people is bad? Oh my gosh, it's all falling apart. Are you trying to? Because that's all that was Gillette being like, hey, it's not boys be boys. That's actually bad, and women shouldn't be raped. That's all that happened. Why are they still talking about this? It's insane. How are they getting so mad about Gillette saying rape bad? It's wild to me. It's wild. The thing that they also forgot, like one of the big parts of like the best a man can be ad is to not like bully and put down and shit on other men, but they just forgot about that. And then I don't know, I guess anytime somebody says rape is bad, these guys just like jump to, I can't believe they say men are all rapists. That's weird, right? That's a weird thing to think. And whoever said that like history is all just patriarchy, but like there's a big part of it. I'm sorry, like the reason for why men did a lot of shit back in the day was because women honestly literally weren't allowed to, and they were killed and beat for it. What is happening? I don't understand. I don't understand how simple explanations of like forces that happen in history are why they're so allergic to it. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's very odd. It's very strange.
That you've got into trouble about, which I don't understand why. That you believe that most women probably quite like their men to be strong and confident.
I don't believe that. All the data shows that clearly across cultural samples and has for 50 years. Plus everyone knows it.
Anecdotally, most women I know, I think, would absolutely agree. Why is it that you've been so vilified for suggesting something which is so palpably true?
Well,
holy shit, the dick's riding is crazy, bro. You're not even gonna, that's the only thing that you think is the problem? Holy shit. Listen, okay? Here's the thing. The problem with Jordan Peterson and other people like him's idea and definition of like men and confidence and strength, that's the problem here, right? Like Jordan Peterson is bringing through like a really cringe idea of masculinity, one that he doesn't even really abide by, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I wouldn't consider Jordan Peterson to be very strong. I also don't consider Peterson to be very masculine either. Okay, I came from a family that's pretty masculine. Okay, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, as proof, all of my family has fought in every American war as a soldier, okay? Every single one, all right? My dad is fucking huge and a very big lad, okay? He's a big boy. He's very strong. Master sergeant in the military, okay? Like I don't think that anyone would call him not masculine. He didn't do 2 tours in Iraq. You know, that's one thing that's different. But my mom was like my mom too was in the military. She was on a Black Hawk, okay? But strength means something different to everyone. And Jordan Peterson's definition of like masculinity and men and all of this stuff, it just is antithetical to how a lot of women want their men, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like these days, actually what's incredibly interesting is that these days women actually don't want the sort of traditionally masculine men. Like they actually don't. Like, and he's talking about studies. Studies have proved this, that your average like cis woman does not want like a traditionally masculine man, and actually views that traditionally masculine men are abrasive, stupid, and actually mad abusive and have like a high probability of like sexually assaulting or beating them, are like skyrocketing. And they're wanting different types of guys. And these types of guys are not weak losers or whatever, but like a normal human being standards, maybe by Peterson and like Cruz standards or something, but they're stupid, so who gives a shit, if I'm gonna be honest. But they display like a different type of strength. They display a sort of like, you know, what's his name? His name is Newt or something from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, even though we do be hating Cringe K. Rowland. That character is actually pretty good and shows like a new type of masculinity, or like a different type of masculinity that is strong, that is caring, that is capable as well, and very confident in his own abilities. But he's more quiet and he's more loving, and he's not as sort of like traditionally masculine. Just Peterson's ideas of like masculinity and like traditional forms of masculinity just are not a part of this, right? They want different types of women these days, honestly, like want different types of masculinity and want a different type of guy than your traditionally masculine, like really big dude. A lot of women just don't, they don't want that.
First of all, that annoys narcissistic women no end. And it annoys people.
Women that disagree with me are cringe.
Biological or cultural limits on how we manifest our behaviors. And also it frightens a large number of women, because many women have never had a good relationship with anyone masculine in their life. And so the notion that they would need to establish a trusting relationship with a man, especially if he's also in something approximating a superordinate position, which is what they might like to find him maximally attractive, also implies that they're in some sense going to be under his sway. And if there's no trust there, well, that's absolutely terrifying. And I have some sympathy for that, because there are no shortage of women out there who've never had a positive relationship with anyone masculine. And so they're completely unable to discriminate between
whose fault is that?
Narcissistic power and compulsion,
I think it's all of our fault,
and confident competence. And so because they can't distinguish that and they're afraid, they put all of that in the same category, which is something like the predator category. And that's not good for them, because, well, as you said, all men aren't predators all the time. And they need to establish a relationship with a man.
Right. We're also in a very strange place where a lot of...
What the hell is this? For one, they actually, technically, like, if we're going to be talking about studies, technically women don't need to establish relationships with men in a sort of like romantic way. Women are actually, and it's very curious, women actually, so since women develop stronger like friend and family bonds than men typically do, they actually live much happier single than like men do on average. And not to say that they're like super happy and everything, but like I think like fixing these problems honestly benefit men more than it benefits women, typically. And no matter what, I still think that these problems need to be fixed, no matter who will benefit more. But if these girls are like, these guys, I feel like they're gonna hurt me, then shouldn't we do something to prove that we're not actually? Don't you think so? And I don't mean like sucking up to like random fucking women and be like, hello, I am definitely not a rapist. But you can, like, there's things that we can do just generally as dudes to like make women less wary of just like your average dude, right? And I think that that'd be a good thing to do. Not only would it make men Not only would it make women safer, but it would make us like not be confused as rapists. Because honestly, I'm gonna be honest, speaking as like a masculine dude, I don't like it when women have in the back of their mind that I may be a rapist, you know? I actually don't like that. I don't like when I'm like speaking to a girl and or something, and she's like, and I get the sense that she's like nervous to be like alone with me or something, or because like a lot of women will like have that like feeling, right? Because they've been told like all their lives, like dudes are insane and they will rape you at any like given point in time, and the second you give them, you're done for, right? I don't know, like Peterson wouldn't like that. I don't like that either. But then like he says shit like this that would make them but he says shit like this is like, we gotta teach these damn women. Well, you know, what for? You know, this type of like attitude that makes them even hunker down in that position even more, right? And be like, I gotta save myself, bro. Right? Because like statistically, it's not actually a bad idea for women to be wary of just random men, right? It's not like a horrible idea. It really isn't. Honestly, statistically, it isn't a bad idea for your average woman to be super wary around any dude, whether you know him or not. Because like, what is it, like 80% of rapes happen through like somebody that you know? So a new dude that's just trying to be a part of your life, honestly, statistically, they should be aware that they should be worrisome. But like that's bad for guys too, because I don't want to be seen as a potential rape threat. I gotta be honest. Do I have any other dudes in here? Do I have any other masculine dudes in here? Do you like it when women just perceive you as a possible rape threat? Because if I'm gonna be honest, I don't. I actually think that's bad. I actually think that's bad.
A lot of high-profile women will not say what they think a woman is.
Yeah.
Because they are. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the new member of the Supreme Court, in her nomination hearings, was asked a question. This is what she said.
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So
I'm
you
not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the
It was a riveting moment because you're going to be
No,
on
it
the
wasn't.
Supreme Court of the United States.
It was
of
riveting
America.
to stupid people.
You're a woman. You're the first black woman on the court. And that in itself, I know you've raised eyebrows about why did Joe Biden go out there and say,
What the fuck?
we need to have a black woman? Why not just say we want the best person available?
What if that is a black woman? What if the best person available was a black woman? You know that black people have been like not allowed to high-ranking positions in a while? Do you think that like in the past the best person was like passed up before? You know? What if Ketanji was actually passed up before for this nomination because she's black, or partly because she's black, you know? Do you know that? No, you don't. What if she was the best person and it was also very convenient that she was a black woman as well? Do you know that? No, they just like to make up shit. It's wild. It's crazy. Yeah, she was vetted by the Obama administration already. But okay, whatever. Once again, POV, I hate black people. I only think they get good positions because leftists allow them to. If I was Joe Biden, I would never put black people in office, bro. Because I'm gonna hit the best person, not a black person. Also, just so you know, it's a useless question on the Supreme Court. This is a very low IQ question. I'm not gonna lie. And Marsha Blackburn is a very low IQ woman, and so at least it makes sense that a low IQ woman would ask a low IQ question. There's no reason for a Supreme Court justice to answer like what a woman is. You know why? You know what a Supreme Court job is? To interpret the Constitution. I have a question for you. Can anyone here find the word woman in the Constitution? Can anyone? A single person? Because I have a riveting answer for you. Because we love the word riveting. The word woman is not in the Constitution once. Not one. It's wild. Not once. The word woman isn't even in the 19th Amendment, the amendment that gave women the right to vote. The woman isn't in the Constitution. It's not in any of our amendments. It's not. It's honestly, it isn't in the law either. We don't write the word woman because there's no need. Because there shouldn't be laws for specific women and men. Okay, there should be laws for human beings, and that's basically, and honestly, animals too. And so it's very odd to get mad at like a Supreme Court justice saying that she's not going to like fall into like a weird political trap for trying to define something that her job doesn't have any use defining. True. What is a woman? The real answer is that them bitches don't exist. Not real. Well, at least speaking in terms of the Constitution, them bitches don't exist.
And then if she's the best person, get her on the court, which I completely agree with. But for her not to be able to commit to explaining what she thinks a woman is. And then I had a moment on this show.
And it's all like a political trap. There's no reason to answer the question. It's not a real question. They don't care.
I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
True.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact.
I mean,
if you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want. But
here's the thing. Simply because you like get like this is true. This is true, right? Her idea that like trans people aren't like the gender that they say that they are is cringe and false. But the general idea of that just because you have the parts doesn't mean you are that sex or gender. That is a factual statement. I'm so glad that we all agree trans people are real.
that doesn't make you a woman just because I call you a her and just because you got a surgery.
With chilling predictability, Macy Gray stuck to her guns for a couple of days, and then the onslaught was so overwhelming against her, she had to go on national television in America, issue a groveling apology.
Based.
For everyone that she'd hurt.
Based.
A statement of what many would think is just a statement of biological fact.
Guys, can you guys find me the gender gene in the human genome? I would like to find the gender gene. I'm looking for it. I would like to find it. Can somebody point me to the gender gene? The gender? I'm looking for it. I would like to find it. It's crazy because it does not exist. It's wild stuff. Once again, POV, I don't like free speech. All of this is free speech. You saying that you're a bad person because you said that, that's free speech. Is free speech only when I say something and other people aren't allowed to criticize me for it? Other people aren't allowed to say that they hate me for it? Other people aren't allowed to say that they dislike me for it or that I shouldn't have said it? Was she like killed or something? Was she held at gunpoint and told to like change her opinion? It just seems like they get really angry once people just don't like what they have to say. Apparently, they're the ones who are trying to control my tongue to say that I can't say that you're a bad person, which is weird. They kidnapped her. They stink-napped her.
How have we got to this place where women are terrified of saying what a woman is, and women who do say what they think it is, i.e. there are clear biological distinctions between a man and a woman, they get destroyed?
Well, we've accepted this preposterous hypothesis that your identity is only subjectively defined. And as I've tried to point out on some of my lectures, the only people who think their identity is subjectively defined are 2-year-olds. And I mean that technically because 2-year-olds are egocentric, which means they can't bring their identity in alignment with a social norm, which also means that 2-year-olds can't play with other children. They can play beside them, but they can't play with them. That doesn't happen until you're 3. What happens when you're 3, if you're reasonably well socialized or start to move towards that, is that you learn how to negotiate a social identity. And then identity becomes, obviously it has some roots in your subjectivity and in your biology for that matter, but a sophisticated identity is not only socially negotiated, as the constructivists know perfectly well, but it's also biology for that matter, but a sophisticated identity is not only socially negotiated, as the constructivists know perfectly well, but it's got a dynamism about it because it has to be constantly renegotiated. Like, as we're having a conversation here, to some degree, we're renegotiating our mutual identities because we learn something from each other,
right.
So we transform.
Right.
We're also trying to figure out, to some degree, who each of us is in this situation. And then we're also trying to learn, can we play together towards some productive end? And you might ask,
who
well,
are trying to play with their identity?
We're trying to have an interesting conversation.
Let's take another break. I want to come back and talk to you about the royal family in this country.
That wasn't, what the hell is happening? This wasn't even, what? Did he have no other words to say on this? Jordan Peterson, what the fuck is happening? Did he even make a point? I'm so scared. Wait, I had to replay this to see if he even made a point.
To some degree, we're renegotiating our mutual identities because we learn something from each other,
Right.
and so we transform.
Right.
We're also trying to figure out to some degree who each of us is in this situation, and then we're also trying to learn, can we play together towards some productive end? And you might ask, well, what do you mean play? And say, well, we're trying to have an interesting conversation.
Let's take another break. I want to come back and talk.
He didn't make a point. What the hell is happening? And even by that definition, then yeah, then trans people are the people that they say that they are. If that's the case, it seems like they've just about basically won the discussion about whether they are what they are. Like, most people won't put up a big fuss when they're like, hey, can you call me she? Like, that won't happen. Or, hey, can you call me he or they? That won't happen. People are going to be like, okay. And then they'll move on with the conversation. Like, they won't have this big, massive hissy fit where they shit themselves. Well, most people don't. Some people do. But once again, you know, some amounts of people will be stupid. You know, there's nothing that you can really do about that if I'm going to be completely honest. And then, like, I don't know. I don't typically, and you guys can tell me, I typically don't interact with like people who I'm talking to's cocks or vagoobers. When I'm talking to somebody, I don't go, hey, can I see your cervix really quick? That doesn't happen to me. Like when I was at school, that didn't happen. When I was at school, when I'm at work, you know, I don't like interact with people's genitals at work. You probably shouldn't. I worked in a McDonald's. I think the food's bad enough already. I don't think you need any cock in it, if I'm gonna be honest. So on that sense, I'm only interacting with what they show me. Their like their personality, like who they are, what they believe, all of these things. And so if all of that is, especially all of that is just woman, I don't know, it just seems like this is a woman, honestly.
I've got to wrap it up. I don't want to, but I have
What's the
to.
big
I wanna ask you
danger
just
to the
quickly,
world?
The film director Olivia Wilde has a
People
new
who are
movie
mean
out.
to me.
She says it's based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these
Incel
weirdo
king.
loner men who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Sure, why not? You know, people have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. You know, what a terrible thing to do that is.
He's gonna start crying.
Thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
It's making you emotional to talk about it.
Well, God, you know.
He's crying. No, not the zoom in. Don't do it like, don't do him like that.
How demoralized.
He start crying. Zoom in, zoom in.
And certainly many
see every
young men
tear.
are in that category. And you get these casual insults, these incels. What does that mean? It's like, well, these men, they don't know how to make themselves attractive to women who are very picky, and good for them. Women, like, be picky. That's your gift, man. Demand high standards
high.
from your men. Fair enough. But all these men who are alienated, it's like they're lonesome and they don't know what to do, and everyone piles abuse on them.
When she said that, Olivia Wilde, it stung you, didn't it? I saw the
Oh, by
reaction.
that time, you know, that as far as critiques go, that was kind of low level. I mean, once I got painted as Red Skull, you know, magical super Nazi, that was kind of the end of the insults.
I'm sorry, but like, I'm going to say this now. Jordan Peterson Red Skull was mad funny. It was actually really funny. Wait, it was like actual quotes from him, and then they put them on Red Skull, and then he actually had a mental breakdown because of it. It was just like a year ago. It was just like a year ago when this happened, but it was very, very funny, and he absolutely lost it. Here, let me see if I can find this. This is real. Yeah. The Red Skull. 10 rules for life. Chaos and order. The feminist tribe. Carl Luger's genius. What the hell? There's also I think this is another Jordan Peterson quote, if I remember correctly. Or no. Yeah, he did. It's the same for all them young men, weak, looking for a purpose. I found the flag. You found the badge. They found the skull. He tells them what they always long to hear, that they're secretly great, that the whole world is against them, and that if they're truly men, they'll fight back, and bingo, that was their purpose. That was what they live for, and that's what they'll die for. Oh my god. Is this from the same issue? He was not liking. Do I really live in a universe where Ta-Nehisi Coates has written a Captain America comic featuring a parody of my ideas as part of his philosophy of the arch villain Red Skull? So while he was typing, he was crying at the same time. You hate to see it. It was very sad. It was a very emotional time for him. It was a very emotional time in his life.
There's no place past that. So when
I thought it was funny.
Made those comments, the first thing I did was go look at the preview for a movie.
POV, I hate free
quite
speech.
Liked. I thought I would go see that movie probably, and perhaps I will. It didn't really bother me. My family and I talked about it right away, and we were able to respond to it with some degree of humor, which then people completely misunderstood. I said I hope that, that if I had to be played by someone, he's a very good-looking man, and so that seems all right, And then I said something like, I hope he gets my fashion style choice right when he plays me. And it was a joke. All that was a joke.
I mean, you've been so controlled today, and yet in that brief moment, you got very emotional. Why?
It's really something to see constantly how many people are dying for lack of an encouraging word. And how easy it is to provide that if you're careful. Give credit where credit is due. And to say, you're a net force for good if you want to be.
Do you believe you're a net force for good?
Net, yes. In all the details, probably not. No one's perfect. So people make their mistakes as they stumble uphill.
Jordan's been a fascinating interview.
It's just so here's the thing. When I don't like how a lot of people use the word incel. I feel like it's just like a catch-all term for like a guy that you don't like and also has trouble getting dates. I think that's what most people when they just say the word incel. The real world incel simply means that you you involuntarily are not having sex, or I think let's broaden it out to like meaningful relationships, especially like in particularly with women. That's in the way that people would use it, right? I think that's a better way to think of it. I don't like the way that people use that. But I think there's a big thing when it comes to people like Peterson. The big thing, and like the big bad thing with people like Peterson, and why people are so like onto him is because his ideology and the one in which like he pushes is indeed what's killing men in our society. Whether he wants to know it or not, or whether he understands it or not, I have no clue, and I don't think that he does. But like, in all actuality, his like idea of men and what they should be, and social roles that we fill into leaves a lot of men out, and it's a big problem. And for one, like, we're making a lot of assumptions about like what people really want, and we saw this earlier in the day, right? Or earlier in this discussion where he was like, oh, like what women really want, they want that traditional masculine man that they all know that they want him, whether or not they'll say that they don't want him, and then they'll say that they have valid reasons because they don't want to be abused, but they really want them all deep in the inside, right? But like, what about a guy who doesn't fall into that, but he's like, there's nothing wrong with him, right? A big problem with people like Peterson is that they hide behind like the veil of, oh, these are just the facts, and this is just kind of how it is, and so there's no reason to like get on me or say that I'm the bad guy here. I can't be the bad guy because I'm just stating cold hard facts. When the facts aren't really backed up, they're half truths at best. which I think are worse than full lies, because there's something for people to hang on to and believe it if it's a half truth instead of it being a full lie. If you sell them a good enough story, which Jordan Peterson is good at. He's good at selling a story, right? He's good at selling people and thinking that he's doing things in their best interest. That leads to people falling behind. That leads to men like following him until like they kill themselves, you know? There's been people who've been following Jordan Peterson for like ever, right? And a lot of their lives have not been getting better at all. You know, you love it. It's the same sort of like testimonial with other like garbage like self-help sort of like adware cringe out there that Jordan Peterson sells. And I would imagine and I know for my bad, I don't want to say imagine. I know for a fact that there's like actual good advice that Jordan Peterson has given. It's just interspliced with like really bad things that are worthy and must be condemned and must be talked against because they're harmful for society, right? And I think on average, he gets known for, and people hang on to those things that are harmful for society more than they do the things like, oh, just clean your room. But there's a lot more to what he says than, oh, just clean your room. If all he was doing was saying like, bro, just clean your room and giving other advice like that, then I don't think there'd be any issue. There's so many people out there like talking to men. I mean, there's like Dr. K, right? What about people like Dr. K? Like Dr. K isn't like huge or anything, but Dr. K is big enough to like be awarded criticism. He's talked to like insecure men. He's talked about things like loneliness and being an incel and all this type of stuff all of the time. But he doesn't garner the same sort of like criticism that Jordan Peterson does. What's Jordan Peterson doing that people like Dr. K aren't? That's something that you have to ask yourself. And I think that's something that Peterson may not have ever asked himself or cared to ask. Really. I think at the end of the day that his problems are of his own creation because of what he says and how he interacts with people is just bad, and it needs to stop. And so until that, he's just going to be known as as like King Incel Chieftain, the Incel Warlord, may have you, because I think honestly he's weaponizing a lot of like sad. I think a lot of things that he does shows me that he is abusing men for like clout and money. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't believe what he says. I do believe that he believes a lot of what he says, but that does not mean that you're like any better than somebody who like fully doesn't believe anything that they've said. I don't think that makes you like a better person typically. I don't think actually believing the bad things that you say makes you a better person than somebody who says the bad things but doesn't actually believe it, right? That's just like kind of me. And like a lot of these guys get like roped into, hey, buy my book, buy my course, hey, if you want to improve your life, I got this, that, and that for you. All you need to do is like give me $50 and I got it for you. And these like guys, these really desperate, disaffected guys who have nothing else going for them, see you as a role model. I want to be just like you, Mr. Peterson. And then they'll like fork over all of this money. It happens all the time. I see it with Fresh and Fit. I saw it with Andrew Tate. And I don't, as far as I know, I don't think Peterson is as bad as Tate. I don't think he's as bad as Tate. But he's not great. He could be far better. I will say that much. And so that's kind of what we're left with, right? And it really does suck. And as we go on, as more guys get disaffected and more guys aren't able to participate in society in the way that they want, and like people become more disenfranchised, we're just going to have more and more of this, and it's just going to become a bigger and bigger market of people to exploit, and people are going to see them for, you know, what they could be to farm themselves money and clout to get on places like Piers Morgan or Jordan Peterson's show himself, or any other thing that you can, any other like clout platform that you can imagine to boost yourself up to fame, off of the infamy of making lives worse for both men and women with every word that you speak. It just kind of sucks. I don't like it. I don't really like it. And it's personal for me, and this is all personal for me because I am somebody who's in this position or like a similar position before, you know. I've been like that, and honestly, depending on like what day you bring up, I kind of like still am. Like it's hard for me to get dates and everything. I'm a streamer. I spend a lot of time like at my house, you know. I've been streaming for freaking 8 hours, you know. so far, and because of that, I felt that like sort of disconnect between like myself and my masculinity before. I felt all of this before. I was in search of my masculinity. I used to watch like some manosphere videos, but early manosphere videos, not the pickup artist type stuff, right? I mean, I remember like watching like Alpha M and like a lot of other like YouTubers and things along those lines to grow into my masculinity, because like it's kind of like traditional masculinity doesn't work for a lot of guys. Definitely doesn't work for me. But you also don't want to be left in the dirt, right? It sucks. And I don't think Jordan Peterson's really making that much better for a lot of dudes, from what I've heard. And it can lead them to actually make their lives worse. Because in the way in which they interact with women, I think women are far more cautious around men now than they have been in a while, because of people like Peterson, because of people like Fresh and Fit, because of like all of this. There's so many like dudes who will like pick up on what they're saying and then be given even worse interpersonal skills. It's kind of like a drug, you know what I mean? I think a lot of this like manosphere stuff is like a really bad drug. It's like fucking heroin, right? So you'll watch this because you're in, or you'll get a part of it because you're in a bad space, but it puts you in an even worse space and it gets you even more dependent on it. The more you watch this type of stuff, the more dependent you become on it, because it's not going to make your life better. These people's lives haven't been like substantially better. It's not. And so these people, they'll like keep buying the books because they're like, I missed something. I can't, I just need to keep listening. I just need to keep buying, bro. And you just need to keep chasing the dragon. And one day I'll get it. One day I'll make it out of this rut. One day I'll stop working here. And one day I'll be like a business owner. One day I'll be a really masculine guy. And one day I'll get the chicks. And one day, and that day never comes. And honestly, a lot of those guys either like commit violence against other people for the rest of their lives, or themselves, or just kill themselves or something. And that really sucks. And I don't believe Peterson helping to make that any less of an issue. And like on a net level, I'm going to be honest. Like I said, there's some good things that he said, but on a net level, I would just disagree.